Good evening, friends, and welcome to the world of the International Fabtalks. Thank you for being a part of our journey. We really love to connect and bond with you, and especially bond with our unsung heroes who have contributed so much to the society. It could be in the field of education, it could be the medical stream, it could be social work, it could be mental health as well. It could be just any professional who would love to share their time, their expertise with us. And when they take out time to be with you and with me, we should really thank them and be grateful to the Almighty that they are here with us to share all the experiences that they have had, how they've overcome all the challenges, and how they are resilient till date, overcoming all the possible challenges that they could be facing and they are facing still. Join us, friends, to welcome our celebrity and guest. You want to know who she is? She's a wonderful person, down to earth, warm. You could connect and bond with her, especially the teachers, the students from the academic sector. You will really love this wonderful session. She is Dr. Anderleen Diana Lazarus. She's joining us all the way from Tiruchinappalli, which is located in Tamil Nadu, India. She has a lovely, lovely smile. We're going to have a wonderful time and get to know how she has overcome the challenges. And she has reached a particular point in her life where she's able to mentor, to guide, and to uplift several other students and teachers as well, and much more to that. Hello, ma'am, and welcome to the session, dear.
Warm greetings to you, ma'am, and to the exuberant community of International Fab Talks. I'm so glad to be a part of it as it serves as a repository of the sovereign will of intellects and life-changing experiences that are so inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You really speak so well. I wish I could learn all that from you. Yes, definitely. We will have a wonderful session with you. And I get to learn all that as well. Ma'am, with your permission, I go ahead and share your profile and we begin the session.
Yes.
Thank you, dear. Friends, have you seen how ma'am speaks? She is really awesome. And yes, if you would like to be like her, you really need to bond with her and listen to this beautiful session. Maybe even after the session, you could connect with her. She's always there for us to guide us and to bring out the best in us. Friends, I'd like to share her profile. She is Dr. Anderleen Diana Lazarus, a beautiful name, a unique one at that. She's an assistant professor, executive assistant to the vice chancellor and manager faculty personnel, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Apart from that, there's much more to her. She is connected and she works with SRM Institute of Science and Technology. There's much more to her profile, dear friends. She is very much focused to bring out the best in everyone. She is the recipient of the Global Teacher Role Model Award 2020, and she has won silver medals twice for the best research papers presented. She is also an author, not only a teacher, not only an academician, but also an author where she focuses on writing. She has authored 3 wonderful books, and she's actively engaged in teaching and training. I repeat that word, actively engaged. We all can teach, but actively teaching, making it really a moment to treasure for the trainees or for the students, that makes you one of the best teachers in the world. And here she has that to her credit. Her view with regard to teaching and especially focusing on English for specific purposes were tangible after defending her Ph.D. thesis, which emphasizes the need to pretest the language competency of students who take up professional courses, thus bridging the gaps between the known and the unknown. So I'd like to discuss more on this as to how ma'am went about it, what it really means, and how one could benefit from it. Now, if you do something, you should do it with perfection. I guess that's what it is. Let's get to know more about it, friends, from ma'am. Beyond the classroom, Dr. Lazarus is actively involved in community outreach activities. Not only teaching, it could be various other activities that ma'am is focused on. Now, what is it? That's a secret ma'am will share with us. Since 2010, she has conducted zero-cost soft skill training sessions. I repeat that, zero-cost soft skill training sessions and English language workshops for students and teachers in India and abroad. Wonderful, that's really great. She is well known for her emceeing skills in academics and non-academic sectors as well. Dr. Lazarus was honored with the title Dr. D, the ever happy MC, owing to her phenomenal emceeing skills and massive contribution as an MC. She participates actively as a resource person and a keynote speaker at various conferences, workshops, and programs. She has a special calling towards training teachers, the teacher trainees. and chooses to be their spokesperson. This is really lovely. Who would stand like that for us, so strong and tall, like a giant? That's really nice. I wish that, I had some mentor like that during my stint as a teacher, as an academician. She wrote the student teacher's pledge of affirmations and went on to empower her students as authors. I repeat that. She has empowered her students to become authors, writers, and poets. That's wonderful. It's a big wow and a great shout out. That's wonderful, ma'am. Dr. Lazarus thus demonstrates her dedication to academic excellence, social responsibility, and lifelong learning. See the aspect, the last one, lifelong learning. Even if you're a teacher, no matter who you are, lifelong learning is one of the best things to keep you active and keep you going with the latest developments around you. I'm really excited to meet this magical angel who's here amongst us. Join us, friends, to get to know more about our celebrity. And yes, she's Dr. Diana. Yes, dear. It's
Thank
really
you, ma'am.
wonderful that and a pleasure to have you here. And thanks for being very accommodating, ma'am. We had a technical issue earlier in the afternoon due to a power cut. You were so kind enough and so generous to share your time and understand the situation. And here we are now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, dear. Now, dear ma'am, many of our friends, your relatives, or maybe it could be the people you know, your students, our viewers, all will be really eager to hear you share about yourself. We would like to know who you are. How would you describe yourself? How would you define yourself for all of us?
Well, ma'am, to put it in simple terms, I am a person who is always thirsty to teach. And as a result of this, I keep navigating myself to what my heart keeps calling out. To be more specific, I went into the field of teaching by mere choice. And of course, like every other or like most other girls at school, we would come home and play the teacher game, imitating the teacher. So that's how it all started. And deep down my heart, I could not specifically say that I wanted to be a teacher, but the movement and my progress towards it was happening in the back end. So life took me to a beautiful training school that is the Church Park Teacher Training School. It is located in Chennai. So this place was magical. It actually transformed my vision to a better uh, kind of, it brought better reality to my side of teaching. I had been engaged in pupil teaching before going to Church Park, but my dimensions grew stronger and larger after going into Church Park. The 2 years there was very hard. When I say very hard, I say it from, a student point of view. But today, as a professional, as a teacher, as a professor, all credits goes to this particular institution because it enriched me in various things. It gave me, different dimensions of life as in how I could become a better teacher day by day. And it didn't come easy. We did go through the mill. Well, that was all part of training. I still remember asking my mom to take me out of college. I didn't want to do the course there. I literally begged of her, and she ended up begging me to continue the course. So it was God's will. And with much difficulty and resilience, I went through the course. And today I'm eternally grateful to the then principal of the college, Reverend Sister Prabha. She has been a total, a person whom I always wish on Teachers' Day with a lot of gratitude. She's one among the many people who I wish with gratitude. On Teachers' Day, ma'am, we wish our teachers, but there are a few teachers we wish them with gratitude. So she is one among those type of teachers.
Ma'am, that's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. You know what caught my attention was you as a little kid coming home and imitating your teachers. Now,
Yes.
I'm very curious to know which teacher was that, who you tried to imitate. Was it your English teacher or your math teacher?
Yes, ma'am. It was my English teacher. And I was lucky enough to have my grandmother as my teacher, as my class teacher. And eventually the class teacher ends up teaching English in most cases. And that's what happened to me. So I would come home and imitate more of her. And I had a fascination for long hair since then. So I would place a towel on my head to, give that long hair effect. And, engage writing on the doors of the wall of the house, because that was my blackboard, according to me. So that was all child play.
I could just visualize that now. I just can create that mental picture with that hair around the
Yes,
towel.
ma'am.
Yeah, that's really
And
cute.
back in the days, it was not easy to get a false hair or a wig. So all we could do was take a towel or maybe mother's dupatta and place it on the head.
Yes, dear. Excellent. Excellent. I could resonate with you because I did all of that too.
Oh, that's
Put
lovely.
that and we see how long it is, and
Yeah,
look at
exactly.
mirror
And
and all of that.
deliberately we'll intend to stoop, to check the children so that that hair would come in front.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear. That's really nice.
About, the hardship of doing a training at Church Park. That was the only reason I did not confess to them that I want to be a teacher. Because according to them, you need to have a training to go in for teaching more than having, the undergraduation alone. So that was the only fear. And then I was worried about or scared about the stories I heard about Church Park and the vigorous training, the hardship. And we can't go home, you can't have a mobile, you can't, it's total a boarding life. So then my mother gave me a lot of counseling, and she was the one who actually pushed me to this. And it was not easy also to get an admission at Church Park. Well, now it's available, the procedures have changed, but back in the days, I still remember we were standing on the Mount Road around 5 o'clock in the morning waiting for the application. So in a way, I'm standing in that line to get the application along with my mom, but down in my heart, because of the fear, I didn't want the admission. So it was like, 50-50. Eventually, I got the application and then we went through the exam, the interview, and I got selected. Well, the entire family was happy. I was happy, but I was more scared to get into this boarding life. And anyway, with a heavy heart, I entered the grounds of Church Park. But let me tell you honestly, the day I walked out of it, I was very happy because I just thought I'm free. I'm just free as a bird, to just go into the world and do what I want. That was the feeling I left Church Park grounds. But after I chose the professional life and, regular teaching practice, not teaching practice, the teaching sessions and all the other things that came along with the profession made me reflect as in what this place, Church Park, has done to me. I was not knowing they were preparing me for something, ahead. I felt burdened. I felt overly stressed. I felt cornered. I felt everything. You name it, and I felt it. It was just not me. All the girls who did training at Church Park did have a tough time. You can check this across the globe anywhere. They would not never tell you that, they were happy while they were there. I'm talking about at least till 2015 because back then it was the way we were trained. But I think after 2015, there's a little relaxation, and then came the NEP, so a lot of things have been relaxed and it's different, catering to the world of technology. I think the rules of the college did give us a lot of discipline. It taught us, many things. You name it, and I would say it's Church Park.
Yes, you're very transparent, you're very honest. And this is what I want people to share, the honest things that happened with them. Nothing is easy. Now they say, now you are Dr. Diana, right? Now they say,
Yes,
oh, she has a PhD now. I mean, what's less for her? Now, she might have had it very easy. But the
yes,
truth, the hard work behind the curtain,
yes, ma'am.
hard work, that's what is really required. That's what you have to learn, my dear friends. How much of hard work goes behind all the achievement that you see now. Yes, dear. That's really nice, ma'am. I'm really happy that you are in this beautiful space and you're empowering others. You empowered yourself. You got a chance, although it was very, very tough. You say, you didn't want, you say 50-50 and the five
Yes.
o'clock 5 a.m. you were waiting there with, not wanting to
Yeah.
go, but then yes, you did it, you went for it, and you really succeeded. Now you're helping others. That's wonderful. That's really great. Ma'am, thank you for sharing all of that. Now, ma'am, you connected to soft skills as well. Now, zero cost soft skill training. What is this all about? It sounds to be very like cool. And at the
Yes.
same time, like, could one, really go down, so be kind enough to take it at zero cost? So that's what's in my mind now. I would like you to share what is it all about. It's like something
Yeah.
mysterious.
Sure, ma'am. Well, thank you for asking about this, because I hope that through this question, we'll be able to leave some inspiration to somebody who would also go forward to serve the society absolutely free. Um, as Albert Einstein once said, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails.
Yes.
So it's not all about what happens to me, but how I react, how I make better choices, and how I go the extra mile. So this is what I did, ma'am. Coming from a middle class family, I know how it feels to be deprived, or how it pains to make a sacrifice which you really don't want to make. So, coming from such humble beginning, I could easily relate to the downtrodden parts of the society, particularly children who require something which I have in abundance. I'm no expert, but I feel I have richness of language and soft skill. So this is what I could give back to the community, to the society, free. Because when there are thousands of people who could do this, but it is more done on a business mode. And I really feel bad or sad about it, because sometimes even our businesses should have some empathetic approaches, wherein you feel for somebody, you do it as a service. Because I believe that that would, give us an enriched experience and a satisfaction. I was employed as a teacher, which means I was, getting salary for my full-time job. And of course, in the evenings, I used to take some private tuitions to add on to the income. And then I realized, that I should do something, give back to the society. So then I started, connecting to some parts of the society, particularly homes or boarding schools, and then to, the women, ladies, hostels. I started connecting with them, and I used to visit them and offer training. When I started doing this training, I first started off with a set of students from a deaf and dumb home. So now you must be knowing why I haven't stopped giving this zero cost training. So when I went there, my session, I couldn't deliver exactly what I wanted to, because their mode of communication was totally different to mine. So I had a person in between who would do the necessary signs to communicate. And that is the day I decided that, there are people with different needs and different challenges. And when I'm so blessed, I should go more and give more to those who need it. So from there, ma'am, I've visited other schools, other homes, but these people were all normal. But my first experience was with the deaf and dumb. And my heart really went out to those children. And to the schools where I go in, I train teachers also absolutely free, though I know that the school can pay me. They can very well afford to pay me, I know. But I never asked for a payment till now. It's almost more than a decade. Um, I've never asked for it, because I do not want money to be a variable wherein negotiations are made, and you are under a restricted zone because you are stretching your hand for payment. I wanted to give what I want to give them independently. So there was no obligation with the management or the place where I went. And I did it all with, total freedom. I gave what I wanted to give them. And at the end of my sessions, most of the participants were eternally thankful because I gave them a different perspective of teaching. I gave them my own examples as in how I changed. I was no expert, and I'm not an expert even now. Even I'm learning and growing every day. I learn from different batches of students. Every session gives me a learning. So I gave them my experience and
Dr. Diana, she's here. She's been sharing all the ups and downs that she has faced. When before I could interview her, I assumed many things that, oh, Dr. Diana, she has a PhD to her credit. And she might have been, it might have been very easy for her. That was my assumption. That was my way of thinking. But the truth is, it's never easy for anybody. Everyone has it tough. But when people face the tough times, they really emerge victorious if you really are very focused. Now, friends, ma'am is a professional, and she's focused on not only touching the lives of the people where she works, that is the SRM Institute. She also touches the underprivileged, the lives of the underprivileged, or the lives of people in different ways by teaching, by mentoring, by training people in her own style, in her own method. Now, there's something specific which I'd like to know. Ma'am, it is called as the PP or the P square.
yes.
Passion for profession. What is this all about? Very nice. I really like those two, those two words. That's passion and profession. What is it all going to, come out in a beautiful way from your side?
Yes, ma'am. I have chosen to phrase it as passion for profession because I have actually rolled out my career in this. And I go by this phrase, I recommend it to other people as well, because when you have a passion, you would never, ever give up, no matter what. You would always go for it. And we live today in a world that fails to appreciate skills. If you take good pictures, people say you have a good camera, isn't it?
Yes, dear.
And the host said, well, you have a great camera because I see some great pictures from your work. Then, after the meal was served and the party was almost coming to a closure, the host asked the photographer, how was the party? Or how did you feel? Did you enjoy the meal? And the photographer replied, well, the food was good. You must be having some great pots and vessels. So the story here is people fail to realize the skill behind the person. We also need to remember that a quill pen doesn't make a Shakespeare. It's the skill that creates so much of difference in what the person does. So coming back to this, ma'am,
Yes, dear.
I was a pupil teacher and I gradually, kept writing exams, going in for higher studies, taking up, courses to develop myself, to become who I wanted to be today. I wanted to be a professor deep down my heart. It started off as a teacher, and then once I entered the teaching field, I had a craze or a passion to be a professor. But to my, I say, luck, I landed up with a government job in my native, which is, completely at my comfort zone. Good salary, permanent job, my hometown. So it was all a bed of roses for me. And I had to make a crucial decision, either to continue being a government teacher, which will give me a lot of perks and safety in the future as I age, or daringly resign and go in for higher studies and, you know, complete PhD and all of that. So this was something that I kept battling in my mind for a very long time, maybe a year or so. And then I built in courage and I spoke to my mom and dad and asked them for permission to go in for MEd. I already had my BEd, so I needed to do an MEd. So I took leave and leave from work and went in for my MEd. And when I was almost completing the course, I had the opportunity to experience people doing PhD and people getting placed and, the joy behind it. So this made me really anxious. And when I came back after my leave, I could not apply for any more leave. So I had to take a decision and I resigned. Trust me, madam, it was not at all easy after resigning because there was a lot of questions, there's a lot of pressure from the family, friends, and the onlookers. As in, I appeared crazy to them because nobody would do this, give up a government job, that too, from the native place. So it was very devastating to face the criticisms from people. Well, I kept that all suppressed and went on with my higher studies. And then I landed up registering for my PhD. Parallelly started working as well, and my PhD took 7 long years. So even those 7 years was not easy. I would get questioned most often as in, are you really doing a PhD? They wanted that instant results because the people who were asking me about it did not have a PhD and they had no clue how it works or rather how it doesn't work. So, and PhD also was not easy. I wanted to give up in the fourth year because I found myself being prone to a lot of questions, which ended which ended up humiliating me. I still remember I went back to my office and I just lay on the desk weeping, weeping just in a valley of tears. That's the phrase I could say. I wanted to just give up. But then I was looking at so many aspects, as in I gave up, a government job to do this. I've paid a lot of fee for it, and I've lost some years investing into this PhD. And somehow I built in courage and went on further with the procedures and completed it at the seventh year. That was March 19th. I still remember the day I was declared Dr. Anderleen Diana Lazarus. And I still, have the voice echoing in my ear of the examiner announcing that. My heart was, dancing with joy, ma'am, when the announcement was made. Because even on the day of the defense, we have to answer every question raised, or you have to at least convince the audience, the examiners, about what you're trying to prove. So it was a beautiful experience. And through this PhD, I ended up reading a lot of books. I ended up going in for a lot of presentations, a lot of meetings. I met new people. I had a better network. And it was such an enriching process. I even ended up writing a poem about PhD. I titled it as The Mighty PhD. And when you read that poem, you would understand what exactly I went through during the 7 years. But whoever is listening to this video, I would urge you to go for it. It's worth every bit. And well, on a lighter note, there is a book called Who Will Cry When You Die? Well, this book is written by Robin Sharma, and I ended up crying after reading this book. So my spouse told me, nobody will cry when you die because you are spending more time reading books rather than making friends. So then you know what I did, ma'am? I bought a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is by Dale Carnegie. So this was just for some laughs. Books have been my friend from the days of my PhD in specific because I did a PhD on English for specific purpose. So I really had to explore. I know about English, I know about the usage and all that, but I wanted to know what does it mean specific purpose. So a lot of reading had to be done, and that's how I started, keeping reading as a habit. And sometimes it serves as a stress buster and a good companion too. So, having said all that, I would be failing if I don't tell you what is my favorite book. It's Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I recommend that you also, ma'am, can read this book. It was a total a gripping experience. It was a total grip. It was an enriching experience, and every page had a message for leadership. Even if you're not a leader, it was a book that could give you a message for life, because we are leaders of ourselves, isn't it? So I recommend this book. So this is it, ma'am. I'm just trying to say to you that sometimes you need to take some bold decisions and go ahead to do what your heart is calling you for. And now, at this point in my life, irrespective of the sacrifices and what I went through, I am very happy. I always call myself the happy professor. And even otherwise, I like to be happy. Even if there's no reason, I like to be happy. So I'm also known as the live wire of the family. If I'm not coming down to Trichy for a festival or for a family gathering, there's no fun. And family members have told me this recently because they didn't want to let me know that. But eventually, the cat is out of the bag. I choose happiness, ma'am, no matter what.
Excellent. I really admire your skill and the way you shared all of this. You had the courage to let go of the government job. I would think 100 times if I had one. And you've been very brave. You followed your heart, and I'm sure today you're in a happy space. You have that, uh, your dream come true. You've achieved a PhD. Although it took 7 long years, no matter how long you've done it, and then finally when they announced your name, and then everything was, you had that excitement within you that yes, I've achieved it. Finally, the day has come. That's really nice, and that gave you a chance to bond with many people. That even made you an author. You are even a poetess as well. Not only that, you even empower others also, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To bring out the best within them as well. Now, how does this work out, ma'am? No matter, you have really achieved your heights, you understood your potential. But the best thing about you is you're helping others to understand their potential within them and tap it out. How does this happen?
Well, ma'am, our mistake, rather, my mistake is my tool. Okay? It is my learning tool. I need to own my mistakes, consider it as a tool, and make myself better. So, this is what I really did. I have made a lot of mistakes in the beginning of my career. I have learned, I'll give you an example, as in when I say mistakes, I just want to be more specific. When you write on the board in the classroom, there were moments that I will just, write at one go, not waiting for my students. And then I realized I am correcting each notebook for so long because the work delivered on the board is not clear. Students did not understand the handwriting, or sometimes they were afraid to ask for doubts or multiple doubts. They wrote whatever they felt it was. And when you see the lesson, the corrected portions, it will be filled with red ink. So I realized that, I'm writing more than what my students should be writing. So this skill I developed out of my own observation. Whenever I do, writing on the board, I always draw a margin because I know students have margin. They relate so much to the teacher in every way, particularly if you're handling students below class 7. So I have a margin. I write the heading or the lesson name, and I walk around the class to make sure that everybody's geared up. They have taken the page, they've written the heading. I check. So who's not written the heading, raise your hand. I do a quick survey. So through this, the students who are not inclined to write also will start writing. And I will parade, I will walk in between the benches, I will walk around the benches. I would, do this zigzag thing. They would not be able to guess where I'm going to come and stand, who I'm going to ask, to show their notebook. So when it came to this, I followed a certain procedure. First is to write the heading and do a random check to make sure that they have their stationery, they are in the mood to do their work, they are comfortable. And I used to even pull them out from their benches and ask them to be seated near my table or sometimes even on the floor, depending on the school's policy. And then I would write just a couple of lines. Again, I would walk around and I would keep asking them, who's written the second line, who's still writing the third line. So I'll do a survey. So this actually made the students write faster. All right. And this made my corrections also easy. And I used to share my learning with the teachers in the staff room. Some of them were impressed and they started carrying it out because it was time saving. It was preventing them from having the notebooks, filled with reading, because when the same notebooks go home, parents are not happy. They don't want to see so many mistakes in their child's notebook. So this brought in a little bit of positivity. And to be honest with you, ma'am, some students at the end of the academic year ended up writing the way I write, a slant font, always cursive. So I realized that, people are ready to learn, provided I go the humble way, I go with them, I do step by step. So this experience I shared with my colleagues, and they gradually picked it up. Now, when I go for my sessions also, ma'am, I show them goodness, I show them kindness. If somebody yawns in my class or in my session, I never get offended. I never get offended. I just tell them to feel at home. I acknowledge them. I tell them, I seen you. I don't always say, if they feel, it's getting repeated and they feel insecure, I could read their emotions. In those kind of situations, I will tell them, you just lack of oxygen. Maybe next time we'll get some indoor plants around. So don't feel bad, and I will also give them a learning why people yawn when they see somebody else yawning. So there'll be a little inspiration for them, a behavior which they thought is embarrassing or not accepted. When the teacher acknowledges it in a positive way, they like it. They understand that you are empathetic. Ma'am, I don't believe that rudeness and being strict can work wonders. I prefer the softer mode, wherein kindness, and when you're firm but kind, I think definitely a lot of learning. People open up to you. They share their problems with you. And I also had some beautiful policies in place, ma'am, in my classroom. I will share the link with you. My students who are now engineers, and some of them are married as well, they made a video of what I did with them when they were in class 5. So in that video, they would tell you what are the policies, but I'll just give you a run of it now. I had a letterbox wherein students could write their problems and place it in the letterbox. If they wish, they could write their names. If not, it was not a mandate. And every day I used to check the letterbox. It was not a big, a letterbox, as in a perfect letterbox. It was just, to be honest, a shoebox wrapped up with some newspaper and a hole made inside. And I had an opening where I could take out the letter. And I used to address their queries. Sometimes, if their name was mentioned, I would write back to them and hand over the letter in secret to them. Sometimes, if the name is not written, I would address it generally in class. And to my surprise, I was also very young when I was doing this, ma'am. I have never experienced this as a student. This all dawned out of my own thinking process. I wanted to be empathetic. I wanted my students not to have a vacuum. When I'm there, they should never be deficient of anything, is what I feel till today. And I leave a message with my students every class. I make them to to be lifelong learners, to have that desire. So coming back to this letterbox story, I got to know that I had about 2 or 3 students who were battling with parents like stepfather, or mother was going through a divorce, or the stepfather is not very good to this particular child. I had 2, 3 cases like this. So I used to address it. And sometimes I even called up the parent, brought them to office. And back in the days, phoning was a very big challenge, to phone another person. Mobiles were not so trendy. So I would ask them, I would write in the notebook or the calendar, meet me tomorrow, lunchtime. So I used to have a quick lunch and go down to meet the parent and sort out issues. So till today, those parents are still in connection with me. And because at that point in their lives, they needed that support for their child, particularly in one case where the stepfather was not treating this girl properly. So I used to work in partnership with the mother and help this child overcome that emotional barrier, because they had a baby. The stepfather had a baby for this particular mother. And what this child felt was because it's a boy and because it's born for him, they give him more attention. But I really don't know what was the scene at home. But what I heard from the mother was a different picture. So we worked in unison. But there are sometimes parents don't cooperate. Well, that's a different game altogether, ma'am. So sometimes you can't stretch yourself much. Sometimes you can. So we had this letter policy, letter writing policy in place. They would even end up writing that so and so person took my pen and did not return it. So from petty issues to larger issues have reached the letterbox, and I have solved it all. And for Children's Day, I bought a packet of small roses. It was sold in a packet back in the days. And for each child on Children's Day, I gave them the rose and I gave them a little letter telling them what I like about them externally and internally. And I did it for all my 56 children. So in that video, there is a student who tells me that she still has the letter.
Wow.
Ma'am, this is about 2007, 7, 8, that range. And I received this video in 2018. One fine morning, some link came and I clicked it, and I'm seeing my own students there. Like their faces haven't changed. It's just gone, bigger and healthier. The baby face, what I seen in class 5C, are now matured women, and they're talking about what we did. I even used to have lunch with my children, ma'am. I would not force them to have with me. I would say go for lunch, and they used to sit in groups under the trees or whatever and have. Those who want, you can have with me. So I used to sit on the floor. So those who did not have friends ended up being more with me. And sometimes the lunch boxes would go around, and all this used to happen. We really had a very nice experience, and it was from that batch that I started implementing policies. And let me be honest, because in some batches these policies did not work out. So when the batch is not in a position to receive what you're giving, you need to restrict, ma'am, because sometimes it may backfire. It depends on the school you work for as well. The schools which I'm talking to you about, this 5C class in particular, gave me the liberty so I could do all this. And I started feeling empowered, ma'am. And I wanted every teacher to be, to transform lives, to make things. Ultimately, ma'am, I always tell my student teachers, that is the teacher trainees, I had the privilege of handling them for about a couple of years. And I'm glad I had the privilege because I was able to inspire teachers to be. And today they are all employed and they are doing whatever I did for them in class. So, and they give me some great feedback. Ultimately, ma'am, one little change is making, a transformative change, a progressive change. I want to leave a footprint that it's not just about getting those high marks in each subject. It's not about getting distinction or, getting a name for your school, your family. It's the experience, the learning experience, the various trainings you give your child. So academics was important, but I also focused on other things like make everybody read, make check everybody's handwriting, compliment them when they write well. I would also ask them to arrange the lunch bags, and I would give them a special point if the lunch bags were arranged well or it was done creatively. All this was, part of the learning and training and growing, ma'am. Even when it comes to collecting money, holy childhood money, like for the poor, money used to be collected in that particular school. I used to ask the captains to collect the cash, write down who has given what, make the tally, count the notes, and the notes cannot be crumbled. It has to be layered. The coins have to be assembled. All this was there. And one beautiful policy which I follow till today, ma'am, is about voting for leaders. It is so important for us to choose our leaders, isn't it, ma'am?
Yes, dear.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, dear.
So I brought in this scheme with this batch, wherein I would not, when I first entered the class for the first month, I randomly asked them who wants to be the class leader, who wants to be the house leader, and I fixed it up. But in the second month, I gave them a chance. I said, whoever wants to be leaders, write, write a note, and you should be able to deliver this in front of the class like a manifesto. You deliver it to the class, and the class will vote for you based on the person you are and the promises you're making. So, students who wanted to be leaders prepared their speeches, and on the day of voting, students would be those who want to be leaders would come in a line, deliver their speeches. And after they deliver it, I will ask them to turn and stand facing the board, which means their backs are shown to the class. And I would ask the rest of the class to close their eyes and vote for their leaders, like who you would like to have as your house captain, or who would you like to have as your blackboard captain, or your class captain, or your lunch bag captain, or your letterbox captain, like this. So, and they could vote, maybe depending on the number of people contesting. For example, blackboard leader itself, sometimes I may have 3 or 4 people, but I'll tell the class, you can raise your hand only once. That means you can only make one choice out of the 4 of them. So this will help me to narrow down the results. And when they vote, they have to close their eyes and vote. Because if they open their eyes, they would tell, hey, she did not vote for you, she voted for her, and all this politics will crop up. So I was very particular that they should close their eyes, and I would, go around like a hawk, making sure that the policy is followed. And they chose their leaders. Every month I would rotate the leadership because I had 56 students in my class, and I was hoping to give leadership opportunities to every child before they, you know, leave my hands. So I did my best for that batch, and till today, that batch is very, very special. And I teach on Instagram, ma'am. And it actually worked out with this batch, ma'am, the first batch, which I had a government job in place. That was the batch I got my posting as well. And all these things were happening. It was a very fruitful experience. And from this batch, I started, navigating to do things better each day.
Excellent, ma'am. That's really wonderful, wonderful. I really went through the whole process. The way you shared that up. I could visualize all of it, the voting, the box that is there. And I wish that I had a teacher like you, because when you ask your students, what is the problem you're facing, they cannot voice it out. At least they can write it down.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you've given several examples as to how they are suffering with regard to their parents.
Yeah.
Some parents are cooperative, some are not cooperative. That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. That's really very nice. And even the voting system also is quite unique. That's really nice. And the way the children write their notes, you go around like check up, zigzag, you
Yes,
said here
yes,
and there,
yeah.
see that they write well, so that the correction becomes easier for you.
Yes,
And
yes,
you're passed on this, technique with the others as well, that they could also follow this technique with the other teacher trainees, I'm sure. Yes, that's wonderful. I mean, how do you get all these unique ideas?
ma'am. It was my failures, my mistakes. As I said earlier, I started using my failures and my mistakes as reflection tools, tools that help me to reflect. Okay, why is my correction taking forever? I would sit to correct a prose lesson of 56 students, and I would be correcting more than 3 hours. And
Yes.
my question was, when I'm writing it clearly on the board, what is the problem for these children to write? So I started getting frustrated. By the time I complete the 56 notebooks, ma'am, I'm done and dusted. So then I started thinking, okay, let's from the next lesson or the next poem, let me, do it in portions. Then I also understood that sometimes they don't even understand that, you have to write first on the left side and then go to the right side, particularly if it's this composition notebook and all this. So I divide the board. So this all came from my own mistakes. I embraced my mistakes, ma'am. And at the end of the day, students are looking for some identity. They're looking for some strong relationship with a teacher, with a family, or with the person itself. And they're looking for opportunities where they could prove themselves, because we never know what these children are going through at home. They may be an unwanted child or an unexpected child, or a child due to gender choice, whatever. We just don't know what they are battling with. So I give them that identity. I tell them, you have written very well, you are great, you are a great leader, you are empathetic. I use a lot of adjectives, ma'am, in class, a lot of adjectives. And I also do some reflection exercise wherein I will say the adjective and I will ask them to close their eyes and think if they are really that person and raise their hand. So even this exercise, wherein children will not be in a position to raise their hands at all. So those children I would watch, and now and then I would give them a little bit of compliment here and there and make them realize, that they are worthy. So I will ask them sometimes on a Friday, particularly because it's the last working day for the week. I will ask them throughout the week, have you been extremely polite? Throughout the week, are you sure you did not rob? Because I even had robbery happening, though all this positivity was taking place, robbery was happening. Then I came up with another thing, ma'am, called lost and found box. This also the students have mentioned in that video. I'll share it with you later. So I had this box. This was also another shoe box wrapped up. And the only thing is, uh, if at all they find any stationery on the floor and that's not theirs, they have to take it and put it in the lost and found box. And those who do not have a pen or pencil or whatever, if you do not have, you just have to get up, go to the lost and found box, pick up what's there, use it, and replace it. And I used to stock up the box here and there, ma'am, because sometimes, it'll be like empty and then they have to end up borrowing and all this. So I had this lost and found box in place. And students also started becoming more responsible, ma'am. They even wanted a leader for the lost and found box. So the leader's job was nothing but to just see that the stationery, if there's a stationery on the floor, pick it up and put it in the box. Well, it was everybody's job, but they still wanted a leader. So this made me understand that children are looking for identity. They want to be heard. They want to show that they can do. And this is what, ma'am, from my failures are my tools, my mistakes are my tools. It's these two things that make me reflect as in why this happened, why this did not work out, why did I end up like this? And till today, it keeps me going, ma'am. I do have failures till today, but I'm learning from it. I'm progressing.
I really wish I had a teacher like you. And I
Yes,
like
ma'am.
this lost and found box. That's also quite unique, It's
Yes,
really very nice. In fact, like all the students out there would love to have a teacher like this who's really understanding. It's not only marks. It's not only, transferring knowledge from the book into the child's mind. It's like touching their heart and touching their little soul, making them feel
exactly.
accepted. That's really
Yeah.
nice. And I wish there should be like, many more like, there
Thank you,
should be,
madam.
there should be, ma'am, in every school. I mean, every teacher should be just like that, empathetic than being, naming the child or blaming the child or
Yeah.
calling them as dullers or dullheads, cursing them.
Yeah.
We faced all of that when we were kids. Like in one of the things that I'd like to share from my side with my personal experience, there was something going on at home and I couldn't study that day for the exam. And the next day I had my social exam, paper one and paper two. I didn't study for paper one. And for paper two, we have a gap
Okay.
of 1 hour or 2 hours, something like that, from 2 to 5, like morning session and the afternoon session. So I hadn't prepared for my paper one well. So I handed over my paper instead of writing rubbish. I just gave my paper, came out quickly to study paper two so that both the marks are joined together and I pass in that subject. So when I came out and was sitting in the hall, I see two teachers sitting there. And then they asked me what happened. I said, I already finished my paper, ma'am, and I'm studying for paper two. One teacher happens to tell the other teacher, this girl doesn't study at all. And that was like a stab wound to me because they didn't know
Yeah.
the reason why I didn't study. I wanted
Mhm.
to study, but the environment at home did not allow me to study. I didn't get that peaceful, atmosphere at home to study. So how can a teacher just blame the child when the child is innocent? Something else was the trigger, but the child did not. Can you get the point? So
Yes,
like
ma'am. Yes.
we keep judging students without knowing the real facts. But you are, more softer, more empathetic to understand them, to make them, this is what we want all the teachers across the world to follow this technique. Be more kind to
Thank
the
you.
child. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, dear. That's really
And
nice.
we also did not have, ma'am, the best teacher. Like as in you can say, I want to be exactly like this teacher. No, we never had it because we had teachers who were harsh, who would beat us, who would even my maths teacher, I remember, she would just catch us by our collars. So it was like, sometimes you end up crying and you just don't know why or why you got, attacked or beaten up or whatever. So that was it. And I had more models as in how I should not be when I become a teacher. So the negative modeling helped me to bring in a lot of positivity. I didn't want my students to go through what I went, ma'am.
Oh,
So I was
wonderful.
very particular about that. And I tell my student teachers also. Like when I went into the class for the student teachers, they have been, used to this kind of lethargic way of teaching or their own whatever policies. When I went in, it was a bit up and down for me for about a couple of weeks because it was difficult to make them understand what is the purpose of choosing to be a teacher. So it was that batch which made me write the student teacher pledge. They are all adults. Most of them are coming there with, undergraduation completed, some have masters, and some have work experiences, etc. But still, they needed to know what is the purpose of doing this teacher training course. So then I came up with this acronym where you are fetched. Not everyone can be a teacher. It's a special calling, and you should value it. So I wrote this pledge for them and I make them say the pledge every day before class, not for me, but for themselves, to remind them of the special profession they have taken. And from that batch, the student teacher pledge of affirmations is in practice. And there are some students, though they are teachers now, they still say the pledge. It serves as a reminder, ma'am, of this special calling. I tell them the last word of the pledge is, you are divine. If you are to translate this, you are Devigam is the word, right? So when you are divine, you can't, you can't do bad things. You have to be good and you have to be legally correct in front of the eyes of the law. I pick up some current events. I take current issues to class, particularly when I was handling the student teachers, man, because they are going to be teachers and they cannot end up in the media for wrong reasons. So I used to take case studies and I would make them read, reflect. I would ask, ask another group to give positive feedback, another group to give negative. We'll bring in a deliberation wherein we'll have reflective learning. I even used to talk to them openly. See, our human body is prone to so many hormonal changes, and unwanted attractions or unwanted behaviors may crop in into our lives at any point. But at that point, as a teacher, you should know how to control yourself. Well, if you're not having the ability, take leave from work, go for counseling, go meet a psychiatrist, whatever be your problem. Get it treated, get yourself sorted, and come back because you are going to deal with 60 children per year, and you're not going to get the chance again in your life. And that 1 year will be wasted with this type of behavior or thoughts. So I always urged my student teachers to be legally right in front of the law because that is very important, ma'am. Because you, being a teacher, you can't end up in for wrong reasons and that to embarrassing reasons. So this is something I recommend to them, and most of them are doing very well, ma'am. Touch wood as of now.
That's wonderful to know, ma'am. That's really nice. It was a very interesting session with you, ma'am. I wouldn't want to let you go. And I'm sure you're going to give me part two as well. This is part one. We've spent an hour like we'd never know. I didn't know how the time just passed off. It was so beautiful and the flow went so well. And I wish that, there are many people who draw inspiration from you and they also transform the lives of the children that they touch as a teacher, as a parent, as a caregiver. You never know who you are, coming in contact with, no matter which profession you are. If you are dealing
Yes.
with children, deal with a little more sensitivity
Yes, ma'am.
because the children are not at fault. Below the age of 18, you can never just harm a child or, make them feel bad about themselves or hurt them for no reason. Yes, dear. I really like the way you put all of that, ma'am. I look forward to
Thank you.
the second session along with you. And I should
Okay.
thank Mr. Chidambaram for sharing your contact details
Thank
because
you.
for
Thank
the
you, ma'am.
first time someone has taken all the pain and all the effort to explain how to transform lives of little children.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. It means a
That's
lot.
yes, it's very true, very true. The first time someone has gone so deep and explained all the various things, the unique things that you've implemented in your class to make your children, students feel good. And they
Thanks,
are
madam. Thanks.
yes, and they've also reconnected with you, and they have sent their
Yes.
memories of how they have experienced the sessions with you in
Yes,
class.
ma'am.
It's really very
That
nice.
that was what to say, ma'am. A surprise gift, which keeps me surprised till today.
Wow.
They didn't have to do it, right? 10 years later, to think of it and put it together. It really touched my heart, and it is very special to me.
Yes, dear. So here's a big message to all the teachers. do not ever label your students in a negative way. If you would like to say anything to a child, say it positively. As you earlier mentioned, all that I did was to connect with them positively,
Yes.
make them feel appreciated, no matter what little effort, make them feel appreciated, make them feel loved. They will really perform well. And more than the talented ones, more than the toppers of the class, the ones who are not so good at grasping, if you train them, if you teach them, they will never forget you, and they will
Yes.
remember you till the last.
Yes, ma'am.
And,
True.
and even when students pass off, when they pass, like, I'm sorry if shouldn't use the word pass, when they pass their 10th class or when they pass an examination, it's not the the student who first comes happily with the box, but the one who has passed and all, that
Yes.
student comes with the excitement and say, oh, I've done it, ma'am, it's because of you I passed, and then gives you a sweet or a chocolate, or maybe
Yes.
that is something you
And
can explain.
award, it's an award winning moment.
Yes.
True, ma'am. True.
Something very special. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank
Looking forward to the next session with you. Thank you very much. Stay blessed and stay safe, and continue your beautiful work, and keep inspiring all of us.
Thank you, madam. It was a pleasure talking to you and to the community of Fabtalks. Thanks.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Once again, thanks. A big, big thank you to you. My dear friends, just spread love. Touch the lives of everyone in a very positive way, and especially children. There's a big message in this session that we had today. And if you like what ma'am has shared, do share this video with one and all, such that they could also empower children, empower people across the world. At least one life, if you transform, that's fair enough. Stay safe and stay blessed. And of course, if you like what the International Fab Talks is doing, connecting and bonding with the right kind of people, with the right kind of message for one and all. Stay safe, stay blessed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and keep a smile on your face, and always have positivity. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.